What is up, everyone? What is up? What is up? Happy Sunday, happy fun day. What's everyone been up to? I've been doing a lot of housework, repairs, and everything. The Radio Shack for my ham closet is coming together slowly. We'll get into that in a little bit. And then, sorry I'm a little late. The one box that I use in my 2 PC stream setup, Windows, was having Windows updates. Go figure. It's funny, everyone complains about Linux, but 99% of all of my streaming issues have come down to the Windows box. The only reason I still use the Windows box is Elgato hardware really only works with it, and I use the Stream Decks. I use an AverMedia capture card, but I also use an Elgato capture card for the camera. I'm slowly moving over to Elgato just because they work a little bit better. But what's up, Admiral? How's it going? And, yeah, it was, definitely fun. What have you tattooed in your arm? Tattoo! I tattooed a thing. Just a star. Star Dave. Whatever. But anyway, I am getting into the prep for, getting into ham radio a little bit more. I followed your advice for the web server and mail server and Proxmox. Oh yeah, I do a lot of different things. I haven't done too much Proxmox stuff. Eventually I'll get into that side of things again. I've just been working on the ham radio of it. Can't replace it? No, not exactly. I haven't been able to completely replace the Stream Decks, at least for the functionality they have on the Windows side, especially since I use the Elgato teleprompter, which is really great for when I make my videos and everything. I'm working on editing a few videos. I've just been crazy busy taking care of the house and some drama that's happened in the family and all that. Yeah, everyone just loves family drama, don't they? It's sarcasm if you can't tell. But yeah. I got overwhelmed with SMTP auth logins. Yeah, that'll happen. Friends don't let friends run their own email server. It's an interesting idea to go about playing with running your own email server so you can learn how it functions and how it operates and everything. But ultimately, it is not something I recommend the average person go about doing in tech. And there's just a lot that goes into maintaining it, getting it working the way you want, especially in a modern way. Years ago, I may have said, hey, yeah, it's not too hard to run your own email server, but nowadays it's changed quite a bit. So it's unfortunate, but that's how it is these days, that I just tell people, look, use Microsoft Office 365, or if you're on the personal side, maybe Proton Mail. Get your own custom domain, hook that up. Got 1,200 attempts in an hour. That makes sense. Yep, that makes sense. Which is why I recommend setting up fail to ban to monitor your SMTP, your SSH, your IMAP, and all of that stuff. But it's overwhelming to secure a email server. And the honest truth is, any self-hosted server, you'd be surprised at how much it's getting hit. Oh yeah, well, fail to ban is just the first layer. That's the thing about all this, is it's an interesting experiment of what to do, but ultimately you realize just how much work goes into systems these days. It's insane what you have to do, and it's only gotten progressively more and more involved over time compared to when I started doing this. God damn. Really? Sorry, I'm multi-streaming and someone just spammed the crap out of one of my chats. Back in my day, you could have no root password on your box and not worry. Yeah, I remember early on as a kid that was a thing. You could actually operate and root without worrying about it until, we moved about to disabling root logins and then requiring SSH keys, where we used to do really simple passwords. Those were a lot more simpler days. But nowadays, you can't even spin up a server And many people think this is hyperbole, but if you spin up a server, within an hour, you may have some bots hitting your box, especially if it's hosted on a cloud provider, whether it be AWS, DigitalOcean, Linode, Azure, one that's publicly known, because they're scanning every single IP that is available and known. Now, if you're on a definitively more private, like you bought your own IP blocks or anything, it may be a little bit longer, but eventually you'll get it. And if you think that I'm BSing you, look, I have a not private, but it's a public IP provisioned by DHCP for my home network, and my firewall gets hit at least several times a day with all sorts of different things it's trying to scan for. Whether it's like, oh, we're trying to see, if there's an Apache connection or a SQL database connection, or just trying to straight SSH connect into my firewall and all that. And it gets denied based on IDS IPS rules that I have built in a Suricata that throw those into a blacklist because you don't want them scanning too much. Yeah, they're scanning everything. It's not that hard to set up a scam. Do you know anything about Wesa? What do you think of it? Well, Wesa's an interesting product that I've actually tinkered with myself. It's an open source EDR. Oh, I think it's an EDR, but it's an open source SIM, I think, with EDR capabilities. I haven't played with it too much, but it is an interesting way to tinker around and get used to the idea of, things like CrowdStrike, Microsoft Defender, EDR, things like that. XDR. Well, XDR is just extended detection and response. XDR, EDR, more or less the same thing, except that, they make that extra spin on marketing. But more or less, it does the same thing. Endpoint detection response, extended detection and response, which, then you can kind of, but then you also have your CSPM, Cloud Security Platform module. So you have your things like Wiz for cloud-based security, which is a little bit different than when you're doing an EDR, XDR. Yeah, a lot of it's just nuance with different terms when it comes to cybersecurity, but yeah. I set up a Windows 2000 box around 2003 and it got hacked in about 20 seconds after I plugged it in. Yeah, those were the times when it was starting to pick up a little bit more, but Windows out the box isn't that secure either. What's up, Mario? How's it going? Windows out the box was not that secure. So the one thing I don't really care about Windows for, and this is one of the reasons why I tend to prefer Linux among many other, is you have to think of it this way. Windows has everything enabled by default, and then you have to disable things. Linux does the opposite. Everything is disabled by default, and you have to enable things. I'd rather have that principle so that I only enable just enough of what I need. Windows is very, very wide open and kind of chatty on a network if you ever listen to it on a network. Put a network monitor on it, just even a simple Wireshark, something like that, and you'll see it is very, very chatty on a network and noisy in terms of just trying to do, hey, I'm here, I'm available, that kind of thing. Using PhotoRec to recover old files. Yeah. Also, Linux is the best when it comes to data recovery. It can be, but it has more options to do things. Linux just, there's no real operating system that gets as low level as DOS anymore, so Linux is about as good as it'll get these days. Linux used to be a lot worse with everything open by default. They used to be. But Microsoft definitely takes the cake in just how horrible things can be to do. Sudo system control, enable, fail to ban. Yeah. Well, set it up and configure things, all that. Windows just, it's kind of a pain in the butt to maintain. Now, you do have Windows Core installations that you can have where it's minimized, stripped down, and things like that, but then you still have to know your way around it. And it feels like there's still a lot more improvements they need to do on that side. Let's remember, Microsoft only came up with PowerShell realizing that, oh, you can't do everything through a GUI. I'm oversimplifying this, of course. And realizing, yeah, you needed to get a CLI backend to manage things that were not as easily done as it was back in the day. Windows Core is so hard to use compared to Linux, which is crazy. Oh yeah, it's absolutely hard. Like, this is the thing I tell a lot of people, is it's shocking when people come to me as someone that uses Mac, Windows, and Linux and says, Linux is so complicated. And I'm like, it's not really that complicated. It's just different. Because it's interesting when you listen to a Windows user say, well, you know, I just go to Control Panel, then I open up Registry Editor, then, you know, I just configure the group policies, and I do all that. And I'm sitting there like, do you not realize it is more complicated? It's just that you're more familiar with it. And then they're blown away with like, well, what do you do to, you know, configure most of your Linux? And I'm like, I use a text editor. Everything's a file in Linux. You don't have to deal with registry hives. You don't have to deal with group policies and a lot of these complicated, convoluted concepts that, you know, overcomplicate computing. You just use the computer and then you learn how things work. Same thing as you would do with Windows. It's just, I'd have to say, if one were to start at ground zero, given Mac, Windows, Linux, FreeBSD, all of that, I'd have to say the Nixes, like FreeBSD and Linux, probably are going to be the easiest to wrap your head around if given a complete zero knowledge leveled playing ground to start with. It just happens to be most people are coming from Windows, if anything, and then they're having to relearn and unlearn what they have learned, and then you start realizing after they start using it, even just for a good few weeks and everything. Like, look, even PewDiePie, who isn't by any means a, you know, professional tech person or anything. I'm not saying, you know, anything to discredit him. He made that video talking about he uses Linux and you should too. He kind of got the message of, oh yeah, this isn't that complicated. It's just put my head down, start understanding a different way of doing things. And that's what can happen. Your lives are so informal. I follow you from various accounts. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. Appreciate it, Smiley. I just try to, you know, be myself. The one thing I thought that was lacking with a lot of the tech and cybersecurity creators for a while, as someone that really accidentally fell into being a tech and cybersecurity creator, was they sell a lot of BS. And I'm just like, look, I think a lot of people just need the real deal about how things are. I may not know everything, but what I know, I am willing to share. And what I don't know, I will be honest and tell you I don't know these things, but I will tell you what I do know about them. And then we can learn things together. I'm tired of all the BS that I see with self-serving tech creators of like, you know, 90 days and 90K, you can get a career in cybersecurity, and not give you the reality check and just want you to buy a course or something like that. I'm tired of that thing. It's complicated when you try to install a driver that isn't available for Linux. Well, it's complicated to do the same thing in Windows. I mean, you have a lot of drivers in Windows that aren't available for older hardware. So, like, think about, like, a lot of medical equipment. There's a lot of medical equipment, a lot of engineering equipment, even certain aviation systems I've seen that only still work on Windows XP, maybe 2000, or even 98. And it's a problem and a pain to get them working in a modern Windows environment. That's just par for the course. So that's just more of a development issue around certain pieces of hardware. But I feel like that gap is lessening more and more over time. NixOS is the easiest one, and I don't know why I haven't used it yet. I don't know if it's the easiest or that. It's just different. But I will say overall Linux distributions, even like CubesOS, is a lot easier to understand than most people give themselves credit. It's just you have to understand a lot of fundamentals about how Linux operates and how things connect into it, and then you can wrap your head around it. That's the only reason why I tell people don't jump into CubesOS immediately until you have a little familiarity. Nix is everything in one comp file. Well, there's also complications with Nix, too. There's a different understanding of how it works than a lot of operating systems, if I recall correctly. I haven't played with it myself, but I was talking to some friends that use it. It is a different way to think about computing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. Let me make that very clear. It's just different. And it's interesting. Just set up my home NAS on a ThinkStation M91 P16 gig of DDR3. Not fast, but works mint. You don't need much if you're talking a home NAS. A NAS doesn't need that much compute. A NAS is really just there to, it's a network attached storage. Does it connect to your disks? Does it have the disks configured in the way you need? Can it connect to the network? Can your machines then connect to that device? That's all that matters. If you actually pop under the hood of most NAS devices, you'll find they're very anemic compared to a lot of regular desktop systems you and I use. You'll find that they may have only like 1, 2, 4 gigabytes of memory, maybe a very slow ARM CPU. You can make them very powerful, but it does not by any means a requirement to have in a NAS. So, yeah. Is DNS tunneling and post-exploitation used often? I haven't really seen a lot of... I haven't really seen much in the way of DNS tunneling, post-exploitation. Most exploitation is more about can it grab data and then exfiltrate that data. Sometimes there's clever tactics used, but most of the time it's... The honest truth is most exploitations that I've seen are either hands-on with someone trying to manually extract data, usually through cloud systems, because that's how things are now. So they may at most route through like a VPN, maybe Tor or something if they're doing it that way. The average attacker may be in a system for up to 6 months without detection. That's an honest statistic. I can't remember where I pulled that from, but that was the average number that I remember kept seeing being seen in different professional presentations and discussions and such, which is kind of a shocking thing. And other than that, the other exploitation is usually cryptojacking, crypto mining, using your resources to do other things that you don't normally want to have, so they run up a bill on your end to make money for them. So it's either that's mainly what I've been seeing. Emailers and stuff like that aren't nearly as common as they once were. Not saying they don't happen, but email is an attack, you know, in terms of like trying to spread and all that. It's not as common as it used to be. Where I remember, you know, it used to be it would compromise your system, then it would try to go through your contacts and then compromise other people. That happens, but not nearly to the level of a lot of corporations would want to do. Usually it is hands-on social engineering in those cases where it's like, hey, I am the president of this company. I need you to send me gift cards for this company for a thing, and then, you know, send it out that way. You know, the gift card scams, things like that. My labs in school tested with Linux and made it so much easier to understand Windows as it's intended. Well, yeah, Linux is super easy to understand, especially when you're trying to go from a computer engineering, computer science standpoint, because Windows is a black box. It's the same problem with like x86 architecture of CPUs and ARM for that matter too. It's a black box of intellectual property that we at most know the tip of the iceberg. And as you know, like, whatever you see on the iceberg is merely a small amount of what's actually below it. Whereas when you go to Linux and open source, you can see the full entirety of things. You can understand it a lot better. We know how the whole thing can play into each other. And the same thing with RISC-V versus ARM and Intel, ARM and x86. That's why they're more advantageous. Especially if you're trying to understand and learn how things work. I find that Windows, at least from my experience, having to learn computing and such for many years, was a bigger roadblock for me to understand a lot of concepts than using Linux and open source. Outside of Docker stuff. Yeah. Is it true younger generation has difficulties understanding tech? I think some do. The difficulties more so come from what I've noticed. Now, let me put it in this perspective. My nieces my best friend has taken a great effort to make sure her kids, my nieces, are being educated on using desktop machines. I have a, can't believe she's this old. She's what, 11, 12? Learning Unity. Learning how computers work, coding, and a little bit like that. But that's because she was thrown onto a computer from a young age and told this is how it works. The issue with difficulties of understanding technology comes from the abstraction that we've placed upon kids pretty much artificially. Let me put it this way, the iPad generation. If you throw an iPad in front of a kid and all they know is to tap the screen and it just works, but they have no concept of how it works, configuring things, all of that, of course they're not going to understand how it works because it's just always worked for them. But you get that same kid and raise them in an environment similar to what I grew up with. Maybe it's not as in depth where, like, I remember when I was getting Doom 3 and I had to modify conf files and tribes 2 to get INIs and everything like that working, and we had to do a lot of more basic setup, but they can start understanding a lot of the different concepts there, whereas the iPad generation is now dealing with layers of abstraction they have to sift through to understand the technology. So we're actually putting our kids at a disadvantage that want to work in the fields of technology, whether it be cybersecurity, data analytics, things like that, coding or that, because they don't understand how computers work, because we've created these barriers by making devices too easy to use, and then we just throw them on those devices, and they never get to ask the question of, how does this work? Why does this work? That's the honest perception that I have from all of this. So the issues we have with the generation right now not being able to understand tech is a victim of our own ability to make the tech too easy and then not actually showing them how things work underneath. It's the same reasons why we're losing a lot of knowledge around older technologies. I remember I was talking to a friend where we're actually forgetting how to develop film because we haven't had to develop film. I think that was the thing we talked about. There was a lot of things in that conversation. Because we haven't had to develop film and now we're doing digital things, that the idea of developing film, like the actual creation of film in the way we know it, like Polaroids, things like that, is getting lost. Because we no longer have the need for it. A lot of technologies get lost through time as we advance because we forget the original predecessor technology while going to the successor. Do you know if I can set a static IP on ProtonVPN? No, you cannot. Static IPs inside of VPNs are usually a corporate feature that you're going to have to pay for, because you have to think about it. These static IPs cost money. So most of the time, if you want a static IP, you're either paying for an enterprise plan in one way, shape, or another. You're paying for an enterprise plan on a VPN provider, or you're paying for an enterprise plan, business plan, in terms of your actual internet provider that would be hosting the static IP. So no, you cannot get a static IP through ProtonVPN or most VPN services out there, short of the business plans. And they do that intentionally as well, because in many cases, you don't want a static IP for what a lot of people are doing to get around geo-blocks and everything. Because you got to think about when you're doing getting around a geo-block, if I'm needing to show up as India, well, I'm going to have an IP address that's going to be in India. And then I'm going to need an IP address that's, in Norway or, America or, wherever. Pick a country. You'd need a static IP different for each one. Now, if you do want to have a static IP through a VPN, you can always create your own VPN server through something like DigitalOcean, Linode, AWS, Azure, whatnot, and you will be assigned a static IP that is publicly accessible. But you are responsible for maintaining and securing said server. Not to mention the bandwidth and all the limitations around it. And, the nuances that come around once you have your own server. And then they're still going to be able to figure out that it is hosted in these data centers or things like that. So your results may vary. There's a lot of nuance around it, but generally speaking, no, you can't have a static IP in most VPN services that you're just paying for. You would have to set it up yourself. Missed a lot of your stream. I've only been on for like 20 minutes. Oh shit, I've only been on for 20 minutes. How difficult is it to get into digital reverse engineering, forensics? Which is the best way to grow in that? I don't actually do a lot of that stuff. But I do know those things are not as easy from the friends that I have doing those jobs to get into, because there's a limited amount of, employers and customers that are involved in that. Not saying it's, not worthwhile or anything, but it's definitely a harder path. Not that, I mean, I'll have to, let me, words. I won't be able to give you the best answers when it comes to that, because that's not my niche, but the few friends that I have in it say it's not exactly one of the easiest things, and it comes with experience, and like I said, there's very limited employers and, opportunities in there. Not saying there aren't great opportunities, I'm just saying it's tougher to break into, from what at least I've talked to. Although, if anyone has better information on that entire subject, I'm all ears, but that's at least what the perspective is that I've been given from the people that I know in the field. Should run Proxmox, it's easy in my opinion. That currently what I run, and for my NAS and Pi-hole DNS. Well, for my DNS, I run a pfSense firewall, because when it comes to... So Pi-hole can only do DNS blocking, whereas pfBlocker NG can use all the block lists inside of Pi-hole, and then can also do it at the IP level. Because with Pi-hole, you're only blocking at the DNS level. So let me explain it this way. If you are actually hitting a server, and you know the DNS, it will block based on that. So like ads, some malware sites, things like that. But if you are getting malicious attackers that we know the IP addresses they're coming from, it won't help protect against that. Because there's actual databases of different, known attackers, like people scanning different ports and all that. And I can inject all those addresses from known lists ahead of time, so I can have a straight block rule. So if attack comes from said IP, it will get automatically blocked. That's why I do that. Now, I'm not saying Proxmox isn't bad. I'm just saying Pi-hole is a nice toe in the water in terms of all of this, but I would rather go with a nice DNS system inside the firewall that can do IP and DNS blocking. And Proxmox is definitely capable of, allowing you to virtualize a whole lot. But I do prefer, even though you can do a pfSense firewall inside Proxmox, I tend to prefer having my firewall on a dedicated hardware asset as to opposed a virtual machine, because it simplifies things and it isolates things. That's at least my perspective on that. Take that what you will from it. Take whatever you want out of all of that. Have you seen the creator called Eurothrottle, a post about Meshtastic network flippers? No, I have not. I don't think I have. Then again, if you're talking about them on TikTok, I honestly haven't been paying too much attention to TikTok. It's just... I have TikTok on a whole separate phone for a reason. Even though I know TikTok is my largest platform, it's an ADHD attention sinkhole. And I need to focus on a lot of things, and I could be on TikTok and waste too much time and then not be productive in the things that I need to do. That's just my perspective on it. So, no comment to them particularly. Maybe I've interacted with them. Maybe I haven't. But I've also, been busy doing a lot of my things. So, yeah. I think they said the iPad kids could not even make a folder. Yeah, there's a lot of iPad kids I've actually come across that actually don't know how to do basic, what I would consider basic computing knowledge, where we know how to make folders, we know how to navigate the start menu. I remember I was talking to one of my buddies at DEF CON, and they were telling me how they had a setup of computers. And the instinct of a lot of these younger kids is not to go for the keyboard and mouse, it's to touch the screen. I think several other people have talked about the same thing. Like, they're in retro computing village with 1980 Mac computers, 1980s, 1990s Mac computers set up to play like Doom and things like that, and they can't figure out that there's a keyboard and mouse there. You're absolutely right. Growing up, I had a similar experience to yours. That's how I learned. OpenBSD or specific vendor for home lab network equipment. What do you recommend? Dealer's choice. I put together my own stuff because when I did it, that was the more cost-effective solution. Netgate has some cost-effective firewalls now. There's a lot more cost-effective boxes you can put together that can handle IDS, IPS, and all the other knickknacks and things you want to do together. Even Raspberry Pis are getting a decent amount of horsepower now. Not that you can run networking firewalls off of a lot of them, at least the proper ways that I would like it to do. But there definitely are options out there. It's more dealer's choice on what you want to do with it. Of course, if you're going to buy specific hardware, sometimes you can be paying a little bit more, but the gap between DIY and paid for, packaged up for you is getting narrower and narrower. That gap's shrinking. The machines to make the product aren't being made anymore. What do you mean by that, Data Park? I'm catching up on all the other things. Like, people who repair jukeboxes and typewriters are rare nowadays. Yeah, my great uncle, may he rest in peace, was a typewriter repair guy, and he actually gave me a few typewriters when I was growing up. It was a fun experience to deal with old computers, and that's how I actually did some of my old homework back in the day. But yeah, a lot of that knowledge is getting lost. And interestingly enough, the whole reason we have the QWERTY keyboard is because of typewriters. If you actually want to know why the keyboard layout with QWERTY is laid out the way it is, it's not because it's optimal for us typing. It's because that was the positioning for reducing the amount of times the heads would smash into each other based on the commonality of the letters and the repeated use of the different letters. So there's really no reason for us to still stick with QWERTY today and switch to another one, other than we've just been so familiar with that keyboard format for a little over 100 years now. That's really it, in case anyone's curious. I have this idea for a BitTorrent or like blockchain, but it all goes towards one AI model. That sounds like a nightmare. Ancient aliens, Polaroids, more or less going ballistic. Is there a way to make a proxy server without port forwarding? Not that I know of off the top of my head, but I don't really do proxies. Because the problem with proxies is, in the true sense of proxies, at least that I've dealt with, is they only deliver certain applications that you set over it, whereas nowadays the idea is tunnels. Full-on tunnels like VPNs and stuff like that. VPN, Zero Trust Network Access, things like that. But yeah, proxy is more or less to pinhole. At least from what I understand. But again, my brain is kind of fried right now because it's been a long day. What's up, Foddy? I was buying a new water heater hose because it exploded, a new sprinkler because it was stolen, then got home and was watching people make a driver in your Discord, then realized you were live. Yeah, that'll happen. I just went grocery shopping and then I was doing a few things around the house as well. I've been slowly, you may have seen this, Vampire. I've been slowly inching towards getting the home lab for the ham shack together. I'll share an image that I put into the Discord over here. So for those of you that are not, I do have a Discord. I do have a Matrix server too, but the Discord is by far much larger. So this right here is the antenna masts that, well, not the actual mast, but the mast mounts for my ham antenna that's going to be on there. Yeah, I should put this in the Matrix. And this is where I'm planning to put one of the antennas. I think this one is specifically going to be the VHF UHF side. There'll be another one for HF for a few feet of separation. And if you notice, I have this unistrut set up here. And the reason for that is we're going to be able to have multiple masts. So eventually, these different mast holders are going to hold my not only my VHF, UHF, and HF antennas. They'll also be having my ADS-B, possibly UAT, satellite weather. Once I get into that, Meshtastic repeater. So I'll have a longer range of sight for all of that stuff because of how it's going to be set up. And those things are anchored into the house. They have 16-inch lag bolts. You could literally hang off the side of the house with that. So that's coming. There'll be more content around that as time comes. That's why I've been so busy. There's been so many projects around the place, getting it up together. Have you ever tried opensense? I think it runs on OpenBSD. I've tried it a little bit, but pfSense has more bells and whistles, which is why I honestly use it a little bit more, and it has more support for a lot of the things that I'm trying to do. OpenSense is definitely pretty capable if you want something that you can run out of the box and tinker pretty easily, but pfSense has more capability as of right now. Now, that may change in the future. That's the beauty of open source. So, this situation could change, but we never know. For now, I've just been sticking with pfSense. Thank you for sharing your ideas. My pleasure. Costco samples or food court samples? Which is better? Costco food samples by far. To be honest, it's not even fun. The algorithm keeps showing me weird things. Yeah, the TikTok algorithm is showing me a lot of weird things, and not in the fun, weird kind of way. TikTok used to show me fun, weird things. Now, I've noticed it makes me pissed off. Like, I used to be on TikTok and look back at it and be like, I was on TikTok for 2 or 3 hours, and I laughed my ass off. There were tons of memes and everything. Now, no matter how many times I reset it or even dummy profiles I set up, I keep getting annoyed. I keep getting upset. And I don't like that. That's the main reason why I left Facebook. I came mostly for the dog videos, okay? That's why I mostly was on TikTok. Dog videos. I want to see dogs doing funny things. I grew up in 2000s. Would I be an iPad kid? I don't think you would be. When did the iPad come out? Come to think of it, I'm just curious about that. What is the iPad generation? When is the iPad generation? Uh, 2005 to 2006, the very first OG iPad kids. 2007 to 2011 is the typical 2010s iPad kids. 2012 plus are the iPad kids you think of today. Generation Alpha, those born between 2010 and today, so no. you just missed the cutoff. To be honest, I like a laptop for a main computing device. I like laptops. It's a lot better than it used to be with desktops and everything. I mean, I remember when you used to get a laptop, there was a serious compromise between the performance you had on a laptop versus a desktop. Man, I got bug bites all over me. I like watching restoration videos. Restoration videos are fun. Use a typewriter to type out homework. Yeah, that was a fun thing we used to do back in the day. Because you have to understand, when I went to school, you were lucky if you had a computer. I remember literally bringing my files back and forth to school on a floppy disk back then, and that was considered ahead of the time because flash drives were an arm and a leg in terms of pricing. I mean, what was it, a 32 or 64 megabyte flash drive would set you back about 70, 80 bucks. And then a floppy disk, you know, everyone had them and every computer was using them. So I'd put my doc files on there, bring it back and forth to school so I would never, you know, forget my homework. And then I remember when Web 2.0 just came out, the first iteration of cloud computing in terms of, not cloud computing, but like cloud storage and being able to use web apps and everything. So I remember ThinkFree. Before Google Docs was out, before Google Docs was a thing, I think there was this platform called ThinkFree, if I remember. Let me look this up. I don't know if it exists in the current iteration that it is today. Web 2.0. Yeah, ThinkFree Office. This is what I used to use, and it used to be free and everything. I don't know if they still have a free plan, but it was totally different. Okay, they have a trial license, but this is totally different than what it was. But I used to use this back when it was completely free. You had like 1 gigabyte of storage or whatever, and that's how I would bring my documents to and from school and, you know, home without having to bring my floppy disk anymore or a flash drive. And you used to have to download the Java jar file when you first ran this off of the browser to run the application. This would not be allowed in most computers today in a business and school environment because of the execution privileges, but this is when we were very immature in terms of cybersecurity. But this is how I would move the documents back and forth in the cloud, and this was before Google Docs existed. So I remember reading about this. I think it was like in PC Magazine or something like that. But this was the predecessor to Google Docs, and Google eventually took this idea. And this was before they had the HTML5 and everything like that. So it was really ahead of its time. But that's what I used to use. Were your teachers impressed? I mean, they thought it was kind of interesting I was using a typewriter, if anything, but, yeah. Is there cons with it? Cons with what? Sorry, I'm catching up on the whole chat and everything. I want the AI to be crazy smart, but can't be shut down. I'm already researching it. You've not seen Terminator yet, and it shows! Oh yeah, hold on. I forgot the TikToks. Okay. I'm the guy making the driver on Discord. Oh, that was you? Yeah, I've been a little bit busy, so I haven't paid too close to the Discord. Not because I'm ignoring it, but because I've just been finishing up these things. Once it's all done, I'll be back to, you know, the things I need to do. What's up, Chris Unchecked? But I also had a eureka moment for when I upgrade my HF antennas and stuff for my ham radio. I realized I could use the fence potentially as a ground plane for when I want to get a bigger antenna. Because my yard couldn't necessarily have nearly enough wire for as big an antenna as I want to have. Because it would eat up the whole yard. It would eat up most people's yards. You're talking about radials that would have to extend 30 to 60 feet. But then I realized reading into it, I could use a metal fence as a ground plane. And you just bond that in and make sure everything's electrically bonded. And a lot of people have done this. And that can help me get around it. It's not as effective as proper radials on the ground, but it was something I thought about doing. Do I want to probably go down that route? We'll see. Laura, yep, I'm planning to do it. Is it true Israel can hack anything? Well, anything can be hacked by anyone with an appropriate amount of skills. It's not really exclusive to any single country. America could hack things if they really wanted to, as has been proved time and time again. China could. Many countries in Europe could. It's more about the technical know-how and knowing how to hit things in the right place. Now, here's an interesting thing. I'm not getting into politics or anything. This is just a matter of a fact situation. Do you know why Israel has so many different cybersecurity companies? I'm not going to get into the politics of this whole situation. That's all effed up and everything, because for those of you that don't know, I have family on both sides of the conflict in Israel, being Moroccan and Jewish. But the reason why there's a lot more cybersecurity companies in Israel than, say, America is because when you are in the United States military and you develop intellectual property, that is considered the intellectual property of the United States military. Now, I'm oversimplifying this a little bit, but in Israel, when you develop things in Israel, that can be potentially your own IP, and you can make a company out of it and everything. So with the mandatory conscription laws in Israel, a lot of people are getting a lot of these interesting tech skills that then they can bring into the private sector for good or bad. And that's how we get things like NGO. That's how we've had all these different, shady little companies that, have spyware, things like that, because of knowledge that is gained through their military service. It's an interesting thing to understand. I'm not getting into the politics of the whole thing of it, because as I've said before in many streams, the whole situation's effed. People are going to be hurt on all sides, and I am not for unaliving on either side. I just want peace. Period. Straight. Plain and simple. I just dual boot Arch Linux and Windows 11. Things are going great. Of course you use Arch. Do you want to know how you find out if someone's using Arch? Don't worry, they'll tell you. Just like vegans, just like Bitcoin bros, just like CrossFit dudes, Arch users are the CrossFit vegans of the Linux world. You don't have to ask them, they will just tell you that they do it. It is very important to click on not interested. Yeah, I've done the not interested thing, but after a while, I'm not interested in clicking the not interested. The irony! Shall I send you dog and cat videos until your feed is dog and cats again? I've tried that. But yeah, I'm not on a lot of social media, period, to be honest. Outside of like Blue Sky and Mastodon and my Discord and streaming on here and making some, YouTube content, and then I get that clipped into TikToks, I'm not really on here that much. Although for the past couple of months, it's been a lot out of it attributed to just doing housework and all that stuff. We got a lot of improvements going on, but I will have some content around DEF CON and everything as that gets closer and closer. What's wrong with making an AI that can't be shut down? It's not like we would give it big robots with guns and make the AI call everyone shot. We're already trying to give AI guns. The military's already been doing that for a while, or at least trying. And what is it? You right now have Palantir being given a lot of information by the United States government, and now they're aggregating and consolidating a lot of that data to Palantir. That's kind of scary. I'm going to the Bahamas and I want to watch Max for the NHL files. What VPN would you recommend? So in my travels from when I was in Portugal, as well as when I've traveled a little bit across Europe and everything, the VPN service that I use the most that actually worked pretty well for streaming services. Now, let me make this very clear. It works most of the time, just like other VPN services. I've never found something that's completely 100% reliable with getting around geo-blocks, just because it's a whack-a-mole game and eventually they find ways to get around it, then the VPN providers fix it. But that would definitely be ProtonVPN, which, disclaimer, I am affiliated with. So if you do want, you can go check the links in bio and such, and subscribe to ProtonVPN. They have Proton Mail, Proton Pass, and a lot of different tools that I use. I recommend Proton. I've been using them for years, even before I was making content. Definitely can't recommend them enough. If you want to, get a decent, privacy and security package and suite, definitely can't recommend Proton enough. You can help support me by getting a plan in the links in bio or the links that I've dropped over there. You don't necessarily have to, but if you want to, you can. Of course, there are other providers out there. I know some people are going to ask me about, like, Mullvad. Mullvad is great from a privacy aspect, but I've noticed it doesn't work reliably when it comes to streaming and getting around geo-blocks specifically. I will always give a vote for Mullvad, even though I am not affiliated with them too, but in many cases, Mullvad for the average person doesn't work because most people are using it to get around geo-blocks, so. This stream is brought to you by Proton and Delete Me. Vampire! It's not, but it is. I am going to get political. The moon is made of cheese. But what kind of cheese? Is the moon a Gruyere? Is it a good, Gouda? What kind of Gouda? Is it... Wait, no. It's Swiss, but what kind of Swiss? Was it like Emmentaler or, whatever, how you pronounce it? Because it's got some holes on there. So if we're going to talk about the moon as cheese, we need to get specific here. What kind of cheese? Comment in chat what kind of cheese you think the moon is. Look at it. It's provolone, obviously. Someone's going to say, no, it's pepper jack. Why is the moon spicy? Well, if they don't want Gouda spelled, pronounced Gouda, then they shouldn't, put a G in it like that. At least, for example, Americans that are going around calling it a crescent roll, I can look at them and say, no, it's a croissant. It's spelled that way. Look, man, it's all Dutch to me. Basically, Americans will Dutch oven other languages. Some type of yellowish white Swiss cheese. But yeah. So I'm going to be getting into prepping for DEF CON and everything as time gets closer. It's looking like most likely I will be out there. I'm planning to hopefully have some meetups. If anyone wants to meet me, I'll have details there on the Discord and the Matrix as time comes about. How do you recommend getting a certificate for my home movie server? you're gonna need to have a DNS tied to a domain tied to it, so you can do this one of two ways. If you have a static IP, cool, but you're probably not paying for a static IP in your home, so you're probably gonna have to go with dynamic DNS. And then you're gonna want to figure out how to get something like Let's Encrypt. For those of you not familiar, Let's Encrypt lets you get TLS certs for free. But you have to set up the challenge question and all that for it to work. But you can go to let'sencrypt.org, have it set up the cert for you. It's free, it's open source, and you just got to make sure to renew the cert within every 90 days. I think they let you renew it like the 1 or 2 weeks before it expires. And then that'll allow you a TLS connection. SSL/TLS, because I know some people still call it SSL. But that's the way you need to go about doing it. The other way is, well, you buy a domain and then you can buy a cert through like DigiCert or something like that, which is going to cost money. They ain't cheap. But yeah, Let's Encrypt is definitely the way to go for a lot of people doing home labbing and stuff like that. Now, as far as your specific setup, I haven't done Let's Encrypt behind a dynamic DNS, but it is possible from my understanding. Let me look that up for... DNS just gets you an A record. You can alias that with any other alias certs. Yeah. So apparently you can do... hold on. Wait, this is an old post. You may have to do some homework on this because I haven't really done dynamic DNS with a Let's Encrypt. Yeah. I think it's potentially possible. I haven't done it myself. It looks like there are a couple of solutions looking at Reddit from a few years ago, but I haven't really done it, so but you should be able to do that. But essentially what you're going to need to be able to do is have DNS that can point to a domain to be able to assign that to it. So you can give it, like go buy a domain like buttmuncher.net and then have that pointed into your home network, and then you'll have to figure out how to do the challenging the renewal asserts, everything like that. But Let's Encrypt is what I've been using for many years. I've been using them since they were in beta. I only use like DigiCert and stuff like that for like my actual work stuff because money. But yeah, definitely can do that route. If anyone has any better ideas than dynamic DNS with a domain, please let me know. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break for a second because nature is calling, and I'll be back in like 2 or 3 minutes after I take a wicked French yes. All right, be right back. 2 minutes, nature's calling, and then we'll hang out some more. And we're back. All right. So I guess it's time for me to do a little gaming on Linux and everything. We can still, of course, talk tech and everything. As we've seen, I can still answer things even in the middle of a boss battle. But, yeah, it's kind of interesting how Path of Exile 2 goes through an ebb and flow. I like looking at the Ocean Gate subreddit. Wait, the Ocean Gate subreddit? Like the sub that actually went, near the Titanic, that one? Just to make sure. Yeah. Yeah, the one that imploded. So not really, but imploded. Hey, look. I got the majority of the word right. XM. Is ham radio getting to be an expensive hobby? It's not really getting to be an expensive hobby. It's more so that it can be an expensive hobby. Just like any hobby. You can do things inexpensively or expensively. It depends on what you're willing to invest in your hobby. Like, yes, there are radios that are like thousands of dollars and antennas that are tens of thousands of dollars. But you can also do ham radio with a $40 handheld transceiver. You can do it with a car radio that's only about like 50, 60, 80 bucks or so. The hobby is expensive as you want to allow it to be expensive. Same thing with like anime or video gaming. Just like anything. It can be something that you let spiral out of control if you don't handle your money wisely. Looking at LoRa mesh boards, but we want phone pairing too. What do you recommend? So Draco, the one that I use, there's a couple. There's the SenseCap T1000. I think it's around here somewhere. Oh, yeah. So we've got the LilyGo T Echo. This is a great little device over here, inexpensive. You can pair it with a nice little antenna like I have here instead of a little stubby they have to get some more range. This is an e-ink display. Covering it up because it's going to show some things. But you can get all of these to last a couple of days. This is fairly easy. It'll pair to a phone over Bluetooth. You can also connect it over USB to a phone or desktop, potentially using the Meshtastic apps. This works really well. This is a great one over here. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more rugged, the SenseCap, what is it? Is it the P or T1000? T1000. This is IP65 rated. You can easily fit this, around a lanyard, slip it in your pocket. This has a GPS option. This one has GPS for sure. You can enable, disable, so that you can actually have APRS capabilities, kind of. But yeah, this can get a couple mile range as well. Not as far as this guy over here, but either one, I think these are pretty great ones out of the box. Now, if you're trying to build your own thing, you can definitely get like a Heltec V3. You can get, there's definitely like WizMesh boards, things like that. There's a lot of different options out there, but I think you'll be in good hands with the LilyGo T Echo and the SenseCap T1000. I have links in my bio if you want to go find those in the product rec section. Helps get a couple bucks towards the channel. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to go find it on your own. But I think either one of those is a great solution for if you're not wanting to DIY it too much. Can you help me install SteamOS? You put it on a flash drive and then you install it the same way as you would pretty much Windows or any other operating system. I'm not trying to be rude here. It's fairly simple to install an operating system these days. And you just get Rufus or on the Windows side or image writer. There's different tools on the Linux side for it, but you're probably coming from the Windows side. And I'll be also blunt and say there's nothing really unique about Steam OS. If you're like, I need Steam OS to do gaming, you can do gaming on any Linux distro pretty much, because they're all using more or less the same tools. I've been gaming on Pop OS for 4 or 5 years. You're about to see me do Path of Exile 2. It's the core you need some assistance with. Helltech V3 is a good one to start with. The Wiz Mesh boards, I think it's by Rack Wireless, are probably a little bit better and more modular for what you're wanting to do. But of course, you'll be expensing a little bit more money into that setup. But definitely, there's a website, Rockland, ROKLAND.com, I think it is. I can pull it up over here. They have a lot of different stuff that you can look at. Not affiliated with them whatsoever. Just saying they're a place you can go. So you can go to, Shop Rack Wireless. They have a lot of different DIY solutions. So, like, this is a good one I was going to be looking at myself. The WizBlock Meshtastic Starter Kit over here. And you can add modules into this guy over here. It's very configurable, so you can add batteries, GPS, whatever, components you want to have here, mix, match. But this is a pretty popular board that a lot of people use because it has a decent chip in there. Which one was it? Was it the SX1262, I think it was? I think that's the one they use in there. Or that's one of the good ones. But this is one that a lot of people recommend. And you can find a lot of 3D printable files for this. But what you may want to actually use instead, if you're trying to do something that can, do phone pairing, you may want to get something out of the box to do it. These are better to do like a DIY, like a repeater or something like that. But you can definitely find kits out there. Let me get this. Come on, pull up. I don't know why you're being so slow. You're slower than molasses. I don't know, a bunch of you just go to the website all at once. But they have different options in this website for pre-configured solutions if you're wanting to connect your phone or do a DIY solution. But if you're doing a repeater, by the way, it's best to get an actual weatherproof telco box that you can throw the components in, drill a hole for the antenna, seal it, and then call it a day. After you do all your components and everything. I'm taking some classes on database management, system admin, and cybersecurity. I have no experience with any of this stuff. I'm a little worried with the workload. What should I know or learn? Well, what you should know is that you're not going to be able to learn everything because tech as a whole, not just cybersecurity, has such a wide variety of things you can learn. So you're going to have to learn the concepts and generalities of just about everything more or less over time. But don't expect to know absolutely everything about them. You're going to specialize in certain areas. That's just the reality of it. There's so much to learn out there. You can spend your entire life learning it and still not know everything. Home lab. Tinker. Tinker with a lot of things on your own time. I don't care how long you've been in the field. You need to do this. Hey, thank you for the 100 biddies. I do not know why the 50-cent sound just cut off that quickly. But, you need to tinker with everything on your own. You have to. I always tell people you should have the expectation, as with any other career, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, everyone has to keep up on the new things as they change in their field. Thank you for the 100 biddies, red bearded. You're going to expect to expense 10 to 20 hours of your own personal time every single week keeping up on the craft and technology. That's reading news, tinkering with technology, going to conferences, 10 to 20 hours per week on average. And I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to devote my personal time. Well, that's the difference between a job that you punch in and out of and a career. Go talk to any doctor. They will tell you. They still have to go to different conferences and, I don't know why the camera just did that. They will tell you they still have to go to conferences and learn things because the field changes a lot since they were in school. The same thing in cybersecurity. Lawyers still have to go through courses and seminars every year as the law changes every year. Psychiatrists, you look at really most professional fields, you're going to have to continually keep up with things. It's not the same as, say, electrician, plumbing, or anything like that. And I'm not disrespecting any of them. I used to be an electrician. Those fields don't change as much in technology as fast as these fields do. The biggest change in terms of electrician has been, for example, in the past few decades, has been solar. That's the big thing that a lot of people have had to learn. But yeah, you can get a lot of inexpensive hardware for home labbing, tinkering, Raspberry Pis, Cloud Lab it. There's no specific, lab configuration you need to have. It's more determined by what you want to learn. Use Ventor, you can put multiple ISO on it, yeah. It doesn't work. Well, if it doesn't work, then there might be something you're doing wrong on it, and you're going to have to hop on a forum or something to troubleshoot it. You can maybe pop in the Discord and somebody can help you out, but it could be there's hundreds of things that could be happening. It could be you're not doing something right. Maybe there's a bug in it, but like I've said, if you're trying to do gaming on Linux, you don't necessarily need Steam OS. That's just the version they're rolling, but I have Steam rolling on my desktop over here, which I'm going to fire up Path of Exile in a second here. I got to do an update. God damn it. But we're using Pop! OS over here, and I've been gaming on Linux for, well, a long time. In fact, reset Pipewire. We're just resetting the sound. And then I need to do the preemptive bit so I can get a little bit better performance. I'll eventually script that, but yeah. What is Zero Trust in cybersecurity, and what is it used for? Well, essentially, in Zero Trust, there's many different ways that it can be interpreted, but the most common way is Zero Trust network access. We don't want to trust anything dropping down to the wire. Now, the irony is that Zero Trust is still going to have trust at some given level. For example, if you're using something like Zscaler, you're proxying all your traffic, essentially, through Zscaler tunnels for them to inspect all the traffic, and nothing gets dropped down to the wire. You still end up trusting Zscaler, but you're not trusting any of your home connections, your business connections, things like that, and it's going through inspections for all sorts of things. It's constantly being authenticated, authorized, and inspected for different conditional access. So that can be like, hey, your CrowdStrike version's not up to date. Hey, you don't have these Windows updates set up or anything like that. You need to have these updates patched on your iPhone. You are in a certain part of the world and we are not authorizing it. But there's a lot of things that can go into Zero Trust network access. I'm simplifying it a little bit. But basically, the idea is you're not trusting, giving implicit trust to any part of, anything, and you're doing a lot of checks on different things. Which Linux are you using now? I'm using Pop! OS Linux. Hey, Chief, do you have any specific recommendations for wanting to progress towards PT? Penetration testing, I guess you're talking. I'm not so much on the red team side of things, so I don't have too much to offer there. I came more from the networking and blue team side of things. I'm working on getting on the more offensive side of things, but I came from a physical penetration side of things back when we used to audit hospitals and clinics and stuff like that. So that was, I would do things like bring ladders into areas and watch people open the doors for me without checking badges and all that. God damn, that was loud. Ow. Okay, the Linux box is sending audio. We're good. Are there any coding languages I should learn? you should at least have a understanding of Bash, Python, and PowerShell in most cybersecurity fields, at least that I've dealt with. You don't need to know, but it definitely helps, at least to me. How do you deal with games like Valorant where kernel-level anti-cheats don't work on Linux? Well, as I've talked about on my YouTube video where I said kernel-level anti-cheat is dumb and a disaster waiting to happen, or some title like that, I don't play them. I don't care if the game is, if I were still gaming on Windows, I would not play those games, period, out of principle. It's not ethically nor principally right to do. So the argument that I'm going to tell you is there are tens of thousands of other games out there that you can enjoy that do not do these unethical practices. So when it goes to a lot of the games that, require kernel level anti-cheat and don't have the checkbox where they actually can just work on Linux, like a lot of the things have worked, where like, Halo Master Chief Collection does have kernel level anti-cheat. It works on Linux because they've allowed it to work on Linux. But if it's not going to work on Linux, it's not worth my time nor my money. And there's no argument anyone's going to make to say, well, we need kernel-level anti-cheat, because my argument's going to be, it's a damn video game. It's not a security software. It does not need this low-level access. Well, we need it for fair play. No, you don't. You can play a myriad of other games out there. There's a lot better ways to do this, because now they're getting deeper into it, and they're talking about IOMMU requirements. I've talked about in the video I mentioned earlier, where it's just getting to ridiculous proportions for kernel-level anti-cheat, because you already have people that are now bypassing the kernel-level anti-cheat by going around and hooking in another computer with a device, making it think like it's a network card or something to have direct memory access, and it's just, yeah. The reality is, some people are going to cheat in games, and there's not anything, that's going to change on that. But we all don't need to suffer for that. Anti-cheats aren't really anti-cheats anyway, pretty much. So is Pop! OS good for NVIDIA GPUs? Yeah, out the, hold on. Did I? Oh, I hit the wrong button. Yeah, Pop! OS has a version to have NVIDIA drivers pre-installed, and they do a little bit better qualifications on the NVIDIA drivers you can install through their repos. But NVIDIA works decently well on Linux as a whole. Like I was saying earlier, there's nothing really that unique to any Linux distribution. They're all more or less using the same components. They may be configured slightly different, but looking cute today, Chief. Thank you. VR chat is anti-cheat and works on Linux. Yeah, that's because their developers said, hey, we're gonna let it work. Now, anti-cheat inside of Linux runs in user space, not kernel. And Microsoft is apparently talking about removing kernel-level access for a lot of the security tools and all that, too. They've seen that, unfortunately, a lot of people are abusing it. Is that the game, or is the audio cutting in and out? Not sure. It should be fine. But I know the audio can get kind of weird on this game. But I also do have filters and stuff set up, so, my voice takes precedence. It's choppy. It acts like the encoder's overloading. Maybe it's the audio card though too. There's a lot going on. Is it my voice or the game that you're complaining about? Oh, just the game. Well, yeah. If for some reason this game just gets kind of weird. I do also want to get another audio card eventually. Not audio card, video capture card. Currently, I'm using an Elgato for the, what you call it? Camera, but I'm using an AverMedia for the, actual machine capture. When in doubt, I cap my FPS. I could try that. It seems to only really happen on this game. I think that's what I need to do. And let's see, sound. Oh, let's do that. Should still be coming through. I wonder if it's because it's like picking devices. We'll see if that works. Oh, I still use audio cards. Don't get me wrong. I am an audiophile as well. Let me know if that fixed anything. What is the origin story of Tux? Apparently there was some contest a few years ago or something like that for different logos, and I guess the creator liked the penguins, so that's about it. Now, if you're asking about my Tux, Renegade Tux, well, that was just because I thought it'd be a cool design and a little different take on it. And I do gaming on Linux and stuff, so thus why I have the penguin with a gun. That posture ain't impeccable. Well, what do you want from me? I'm in a Herman Miller Aeron chair, and the angle's weird. At least for the camera. What's the closest Unix-based OS to Windows but with Linux features? Well, the honest truth is it's not really, a comparison there. You can find ones that are, you know, maybe at most, like, graphically similar in terms of GUI and stuff, but, with Windows features, you're not gonna really find one like that. I mean, there was, like, back in the days, like, what was it, Lindos and stuff like that, but feature-wise, they are different. GUI-wise, you can find things that look similar. You can spec it to however you want. I think, what is it, Linux Mint is probably the closest in terms of GUI to it. The chair is bent chief over. Yeah, normally I bend my boyfriend over. No. Cool, can 4 GB play this game? I think you still need it. To do really anything gaming-wise, you need like 16 gigs of RAM these days. At least. 32 is now becoming the recommended amount of RAM for a machine. That's what's interesting. A lesser resolve rune. I'm curious what this is. Alright, so current gloves have an energy yield of 35. Oh, plus 20 to maximum energy shield. 20% increased armor and energy shield, plus 24 max life, plus 9 extra strength, plus 7, give 5 minutes. The current gloves I have are better. What's the best lightweight OS I can completely customize for aesthetics and internet browsing? Linux. You can do a lightweight Linux, like if you throw a Debian with like XFCE, it's pretty light. Or throw on LXDE. I used to run XFCE all the time. It was a great lightweight system for graphical user interface. Linux OS is better for gaming than Windows. It can be. There are definitely people out there that have done a lot more extensive research than me in terms of testing and reviewing between Windows and Linux, and seeing that in some cases games actually run faster in Linux than they do on Windows, even though they were natively written for Windows. KDE is lightweight. Well, KDE can go either way. It can be heavy or light. But most of the time, people use the bells and whistles on it, so no. I've played with KDE, but... Plus 27%. Sure. Okay. I was just curious, what was the better one? Grand Life Flask, Greater Life Flask. Oh yeah, Disenchant. Go to the stash. Would that work on a Raspberry Pi? What, the XFCE and LXDE? Yeah, you could do that. You'll have to do it a little bit differently. But there's, what is it, Raspbian OS? What do they call it now? Just Raspberry Pi OS? They have different ones that are configured for Raspberry Pi. But most distributions that are geared towards Raspberry Pi usually come in pretty lightweight. Why has there been no upgrade from X64? Like what? The AMD 64? Because we don't need it. 64-bit allows for an insane amount of memory space. So 32-bit only allowed for 4 gigabytes of memory addressing capable. So like, what was it? You had 4 gigabytes that was allowed between VRAM and regular RAM. Now we can do, what is it? I think, I could be wrong on this, like 16 exabytes there's just no reason to upgrade beyond 64-bit right now. And there may not even really be a reason potentially within my lifetime.
Come, let's end this.
Oh, come on. What's the best PS4? I haven't really done PS3 or PS4 emulation, really. I know there's plenty out there. I just haven't done it.
It is done.
But there's plenty out there for emulation. It says, well, what's your take on the recent Ex Libre Xorg controversy? I've seen little bits and pieces of it. Look, I think the whole ideas of, like, if I'm remembering this correctly, it was they kicked one of the most prolific developers there because of some code of conduct thing. So, look, at the end of the day, people are going to have philosophical disagreements that we may not always see eye to eye to, but when we came to technology, and especially open source, we can't necessarily be picky about, you know, who we code with. Look, as long as you're not being a dick to each other, and you're focusing on the merits of your code and stuff, what's the issue? I think you're just cutting off the nose to spite the face to, you know, try to enforce these political ideals on things. Whether I agree or not with, you know, why they're going about things doesn't make a difference to me, in terms of the context of you're doing an open source software thing. It's not as if they're working for a company and then have to adhere to a company's ideals and philosophical things you're going to have to agree to. If you have 64-bit, why can't you use 30? You can use 32-bit programs in 64-bit. You just have to use 32-bit libraries for compatibility. Now, if you're on Mac, that's a totally different thing. They kneecapped 32-bit, from what I recall. But no, there is totally the ability to do 32-bit programs. I think, what is it, on Linux we have the IA32 libs. One second, I'll check chat in a second. I think the problem was that the Red Hat really drives, devs really wanted to dump X11 and favor Wayland. This guy wanted to fork X11 to keep it alive. Yeah, but I think he got banned from the project for some reason, as another YouTube creator was pointing out. I could be mistaken. But if I remember, that was part of what it is. Now, the honest truth is, yes, I do think that Wayland is going to be a better approach long term. And, you know, Red Hat is within their rights to want to push in a move into a different software. But at the end of the day, that's the beauty with open source, is people can choose to do whatever they want. Like, I may make my complaints about System D, But I will still agree that it is a lot better than the initd scripts that we used to have in terms of troubleshooting and finding issues and how fractured the journaling and everything was. There's just no getting around that. But, it is people's right to, you know, make distributions that don't necessarily, have to use it. And I'm sure there will probably be X11 kept around in some way, shape, or form, but Wayland is becoming a little bit more stable. There were security issues around X11. I can't remember off the top of my head quite a few things, but I remember it was a lot of it due to the fact that it's just an old framework with the ways it does things. Why can't you play old games on new computers? Example, I can't play Age of Empire 2 even on compatibility mode. I was playing Age of Empires 2 fine on this computer. That seems to be more of a Windows issue. I think you're trading privacy for security when it comes to Wayland. Not now, but will help in the future. Could you explain that a little further? I thought Windows had a lot of backwards compatibility support. They do, but they don't. So Windows is starting to break their own compatibility with things, but because of the way that Linux works, where you have Wine being a compatibility layer, you can actually more effectively have different versions of the same software run as different versions of Windows or that. This is Pop! OS Linux. Were you kind of disappointed in the new Doom? In all honesty, not disappointed, but there was definitely some WTF moments, like this is not the Doom I grew up with. It was fun for a little bit. I still haven't beat the game, but I didn't feel like getting into it tonight. But there was definitely some moments like, you're in giant robots in Doom. This is not Doom. What's the best software to customize my Linux GUI? Text editor. It really depends on which GUI you're talking about. The ways to customize it in GNOME versus Pop versus, you know, everything else are totally different. Okay, so augments a magic item. Okay, so that's got cold resistance over here. Adds 1 to 4. See you later, Basilius. I hope I said that right. You're welcome. Go to sleep, buddy. I'll see you later. Alright, let's see. Plus 29 fire resistance. So I'm really curious. If I go into... I got 3% fire resistance here. I got a lot of cold resistance. Plus 22 to maximum life. Ooh, this is nice. Okay, so that balances out a little bit more. That ruby ring can go here. I'm just curious, if I put this onto fire... Oh. I was just curious what would happen. But it made it plus 22, plus 15 fire. So we got 2 magic orbs. We can... Plus 2.2 life resistance. Life regeneration. Which item should I make this rare? Can't have a rare flask, can ya? Charm. Well, I can have more charm slots with better belts. So let's rule that out. So it's gonna be a ring. Or an amulet. It's gonna be one of these. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by its toe. If it hollers, let it go. My mother said to pick the very best one, and you are it. God damn it, only 11 evasion rating. F you! Ooh. This is kind of nice. I should save this for if I ever make another character, though. I can come back to it later. Alright, let's go into the stash. And put that and that. Oh yeah, and then we should probably sell that. Hold up. Okay, so we got way more fire resistance. Dropped our cold. We don't have any chaos resistance, though. That's cool, though. Let's go back to the caravan. By the way, how's the audio been? Have we fixed the, choppiness?
I am a Sala. Remain a friend.
Okay, so... You're gonna walk over, do the thing.
The trail connects to...
It's still cutting a little choppy. Okay. I'll have to look into why that is, but I have a feeling it has to do with the what do you call it? Capture card. All right, let's see. Solar orb.
Cold snap. Cold snap explodes the ice on frozen enemies, dealing a lot of damage in a small area. You can also cast it on a frostbolt to explode the bolt.
I'm gaming on Pop OS Linux. Okay, so Fusillade would deal 24 to 30 damage on that.
Solar orb repeatedly unleashes explosions. Some fire skills, such as Flame Blast, can be cast from its location. Solar orb repeatedly unleashes explosions.
So let's get Solar Orb. And we're gonna get you assigned to there. And we're gonna go to the desert map. Go to the Halani Gates. What's interesting is it doesn't cut out in many other games, just this one. But I wonder if something happened with the system update.
The Halani
The audio's not cutting out on my end.
Fight to the last. Welcome. The Halani gates are closed for the first time in 1,000. Move swift.
Oh. So I guess I gotta go somewhere else first. Trying to remember where I need to go. I wish I could run faster. Wish I were a baller. I wish I was a little bit taller. Let's go to the Trail of Corruption, I guess. The Maudun Quarry. Alright, let's continue on.
This great wound in the land bodes ill.
It bodes ill. My screen just froze for a sec. Okay, there we go.
Feel the shock.
Definitely liking that new solar orb skill. Seems to come in handy. Although I should see about like getting a stream deck that lets me time my macros in. I'll have to see about doing that on Linux. Come on. Burn, baby, burn. Disco Inferno, burn, baby, burn. At least I can take pride. As much as I suck at this game, I'm not as bad as Elon. Sweet. Alright, we got those guys. God, they just keep coming and coming and coming. And they don't stop coming, 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 and they don't stop coming. It's like that meme that they had on TikTok of Smash Mouth. Damn. That's one giant mosquito. And you only gave me 6 gold? Man, I remember when you couldn't even roll out because they would lock you into the little box there. You know, I still can't believe as long as this game's been out, they still don't have more weapon classes, because I used to have to use mauls and hammers and all that in this as a warrior. Alright, let's see if we can get these little guys cleared out. Okay.
The strong endure, the fallen I must maintain a fine balance.
Essence of the Infinite. Interesting. One magic modifier. It just says with one attribute modifier. That's interesting. Kind of just open-ended. Alright.
How can I advise you?
Wait. I need to go to Zarka. This is a much higher... Yeah, but that's not as good. Okay. Got that, okay. Now we can go back out. Let's see if we can clear some more areas at least tonight. I don't know where I'm running, I'm just running.
Our people have lived in the shadows of the dunes for too long. Countless generations have been forgotten, will be forgotten. We are not Faradun. We are Maraketh. And if we work together, if we unite, then they will be forced to acknowledge us. We must show them
Cool.
kill us off.
Alright, cleared those little guys out.
We must show them our strength. Perhaps
Lightning!
we can one day
Whee!
for all
Burn, baby, burn. Just go and burn now. Sweet. I just got another level. Another level! Energy recharger started in the past 2 seconds. Alright, let's see. Interesting. Alright, let's see. I don't have much strength compared. Dexterity. Accuracy. Okay. Okay. So at least we got 1 point there. Okay, come on, come on. Okay, we're getting some network lag. Blacksmith's whetstone. Okay, we just improved the quality of that item there. But these are just regular items. We're gonna drop those, save the space. Metal vestments. Yeah, I'm really liking this little solar orb here. Seems to got lots of F 'em up. What game is this? Are you good with Windows? I've done Windows for years. This is Path of Exile too, but I like Linux a lot better. I have for many years. Windows gives me too many problems. I deal with it at work though. Kinda have to for my career. Okay, cool. I haven't dealt with CyberArk, but we deal with a stack of plenty of things at work. $21 to $34. God damn. You Splunk back in college? I used Splunk earlier on in my career too. I haven't dealt with it too much since. For a lot of that stuff, we're using CrowdStrike Next Gen SIM as well as Datadog and a few other things. One at a time, not too big of a deal. I'm glad that I have these items that let me regain health when I kill, because that would have taken a pretty number out of me. This is Path of Exile 2. Are you fighting demons? A mixture of different creatures. Basically, this is the game that did Diablo better than Diablo 4 did. This is the game that Diablo should have been. Augments a magic item. Go back to town for a second. Alright, we're gonna go back to town. Let's see, 59.
Do not wander.
Cool. Alright, we got that. Let's see if I can get one more level before I start conking out, because I had a long day working on this house. So, funny story as well. Yitz has never tried the rotisserie chicken from Costco and tried it. And we've been together for a couple years, and he still he was just blown away by how good it was, because it was on sale for like $5, and it's normally like $8. I'm like, yeah, I was kind of surprised you never, you know, were interested in it, or knew about it. Like, I know he knew about the $1.50 hot dog we had. Good God, the network is just lagging out. Oh, did I leave my VPN on from when I was doing some geographical testing? I think that's what it is. We'll see if it becomes a issue still. That's like over a second latency. Path of Exile 2, that's what we're playing. Gotta remember to turn off the VPN after I finish doing geographical testing, because this always happens. Come on, come on. Uncut gem. Okay. A quarter staff. The occult. What's pain offering do? Raise zombie.
Cast raise zombie on a corpse to create a powerful zombie minion. They are stronger than skeletons, but only last for a short time. If you have power...
Alright, so elemental. Heals 9 to 51. Yeah, we'll just upgrade that. Need to figure out what the slot in that.
shock.
Let him frickin' pound me. God damn it. I got that ground pound. Alright, now where do we move to? Forsaken Miner of Fleeting. What the hell does hasted mean? Okay. The great thing with the boots that I have is that I can explode their bodies. So when I run around, I can actually do some extra damage once I kill some and use their bodies as bombs. An Artificer's Orb. Adds a rune socket. That was nice. So I added a rune socket to my legendary boots, which I'm probably not going to ever get rid of. Boots are legendary. A lot of these blacksmith's whetstones lately. Interesting. Wonder if they changed the formula to determine like getting them. Okay, so I need to have it on a martial weapon. What's up, Jay? Alright, so this is Path of Exile 2. Okay, so let's see. What rune do we want to throw in there? 10% cold resistance. Max mana. 10% fire resistance. So we can put 2 runes in. Okay, so we have cold. Cold and lightning resistance are kind of weak comparatively. And then we have, yeah, okay. So what if we put cold in one? Okay, so we got cold resistance there. Let's get lightning resistance now. Okay. And now let's move on to ran too far.
Young one.
A silver charm. Used when you're
I will tell your tale.
Alright, cool. That's taken care of.
The strong endure. The fallen feed the earth. Feel the shock!
Another whetstone. Okay, armor scrap. Alright. Wow. Another armor scrap. Not complaining, just kind of surprised.
Foul creature! Shock!
Alright. Moving on. Okay, so now we're in the Maudun mine. We're going down, down, down to Mephisto's Cafe. Down, down, down to Mephisto's Cafe. We're going down. Hey! Hey! Da-na-na-na-na.
Going for escape. This place is a tomb.
Almost got turned into spider food there. Sweet. Alright, moving on. Checkpoint so quickly? Ooh, that was so close. I almost had to tap out there. Are you playing as a male witch? I am a monk. Oh, what? It's just, you have a witch with this exact same loadout? Yeah, I've only really done mostly warrior. But I kept running into issues with the honor system because I built that guy as a tank to, like, get hit, and I could not do the honor thing and all that. So when I did the expansion pack, I decided to try something different. Which is a paper cannon. She's great for, except for all dodging when fighting bosses. Yeah, I kind of just spec'd this out to be whatever I wanted to be, and now he's kind of more into fire and lightning. And then I also got these really sweet boots that have been helping out a lot, which allow me to decompose on step. It gives me a little bit faster, but basically I can turn the bodies into a weapon. Well, more like a bomb, but yeah. Hooray! I'm another level! Oh, this lets me get a level 6 firebolt. I'm getting to the point where I'm probably gonna need to get a better staff. But for now, this is fine. May level up that staff a little bit more.
Lightning!
Let's see, what passive point do we want to get? Crazy Witch uses almost all the same gear too. Interesting. Yeah, they didn't really, tinker much. Killer Instinct. Spell haste. Spell damage. Energy reshield storage. While you have energy shield. Alright, so boost that. Main difference, like you have melee options and which needs minions for defense. Ah. See, I still need to be, I like my melee options. There's just something about being able to punch a guy in the face. Nothing more relaxing than a good old punch. That's what I'm saying. I mean, Elon Musk learned that when apparently his kid punched him.
Scorpion stinger. Now you pay with your.
She's insane!
Insane? Shut your mouth, traitor! Shock!
Play on my PC with an Xbox controller and a TV as a monitor. I just can't really deal with the Xbox controller. I have one, but I mainly use it for when I'm doing a little bit of driving in the games that absolutely do not work.
Breathe it in! Explode! Deep breath! Burn! Deep breath! Deep breath! Eye of the sun! Burn oppressors! Slow down! Breathe it in!
Diving and flying around. Have you played Star Citizen? I played it a little bit, but it requires so much damn power and everything, and I just feel like it's not anywhere near what it should be.
Explode! Slow down! Thunder! Blinding! Slow down! Die!
Takes 30 gigabytes of RAM at all time. Which is not a problem when I have 64, but still, it's kind of insane. F32, but upgrade soon. Yeah, it feels like for a lot of the actual work we're doing lately, in tech and all that, you need to have like 64 gigs of RAM. 32 is kind of becoming the minimum now. Even though 16 is the minimum to do a lot of basic things, that just seems to be the way it's going. M2 MacBook is 8. Yeah, I don't understand why Apple is like pushing such low amounts of memory. Almost got him. Burn, baby. Okay, we have a level 6. Bone length is that.
Tempest Flurry is a combo of 4 lightning attacks. The third attack strikes 3 times, and the fourth calls down a powerful bolt that has a high chance to shock enemies. Shocked enemies take more damage. Tempest Flurry is a combo of... Tempest Flurry is a Falling Thunder is a lightning area attack. Falling Thunder is a lightning area attack.
Okay. A lightning area attack. Attack damage. Attack damage is 77%. Attack speed is 140 of base. When used in quick succession, the third strike uses strikes 3 times, and the fourth use performs Okay. Okay, that turns into a projectile. So
Tempest Flurry is a combo.
I would upgrade my RAM. Should I get 2 32 sticks of DDR5, or can I get 2 more 16 to add? I always prefer having the minimum amount of sticks to get however much memory you have, because technically 2 16s will be fine, but you want to make sure they're matched. So I would recommend 2 32s if possible.
Shocked enemies take more damage. Tempest Flurry is a combo of 4 lightning attacks. The third attack strikes 3 times, and the fourth calls down a powerful bolt that has a high chance to shock enemies.
What are you waiting for? Get me out of here!
We'll try that out.
Winds praise 1,000 praises. Please take me back.
At least there's one survivor of this madness.
We're gonna try this little attack out. It's my middle button. So basically, I have shooting bolts, shooting fire bolts, shooting lightning bolts. This will be interesting.
Speak up. Do not wander.
Okay, so we have
Careful story.
okay, so pretty dexterity. Okay, so let's see. Faster life regeneration. More cold resistance. More spell damage, but less life.
Speak up. Stay in sight. I know what He intends to. The Halani, but there is another way. Choose or do not. So, the Arsetia, let us see if
Okay, so we need to go to the Trader's Passage. Let's see where we need to go.
No escape!
Nice. Okay. Okay, this new attack's not bad. What's up, Tech Rage? Oh, come on.
Fury unleashed!
Come on. Sweet. Alright. Skill's not bad, it's just taking some getting used to. Network latency is getting a little annoying. No, it's not because of the Windows plugin. Right now the network latency is just networks being dumb a little bit, but you're always gonna have a little latency between frames. So the way you can figure that out is hold on. So you have 120 frames per second, right? Well, there's going to be delays between how long it takes to render each frame. You're never going to get 0 millisecond delays in frame. Now, the network is being a little bit derpy, probably because I forgot my VPN is on when I was doing some testing earlier. For figuring out the words, geographical testing. I was trying to look like I'm from somewhere else to see how it would look. Considering Microsoft just hates its users. Yeah, that's been the case for a while. We're gonna exit this for a second. And I am going to just turn off the VPN that was, I think, causing issues. You don't need a VPN to game. I just left it on because I was doing some testing to make sure when I was working on something that it looked the same wherever I was. Trying to see how it responded when I was in Europe versus when I was in the US. That just added a lot of delay. Had it on, of course. Yeah, I haven't had issues gaming on Linux other than kernel-level anti-cheat games. Some games actually do run faster in Linux than they do on their Windows side of things. That should fix my networking issues. Hopefully. Yeah, network's a lot more stable right now, but we shall see. Ray, alright, come on. Hitting the wrong key. God damn. Sweet. Alright, we got that taken care of. Let's move up to the next room. Hey, think of the follow, Turkey. I don't know why my chat is not showing up over here. But I do not have the capacity to just switch over to it. God, that was a little bit brutal.
What works?
Big sisters.
The traitor Balbala has been sentenced to 1,000 years of suffering as a djinn, bound in this place of her dishonor. Let no woman or man of Marrakech blood enter her prison before her time is served.
And we got some Raider plate over here. Uncut gem. Uncut gem. Uh, 20 to 25 damage. Flame wall. Ball duration.
Flame wall ignites enemy. Ember Fusillade conjures motes of fire.
We'll upgrade the solar orb. All right. Here we go. Adds a rune socket to one staff. Go back to town. See what my runes are for.
Who goes there? You may trade with me. If you are the traitor, I will tell you. Take your time. Goodbye.
Alright, let's see. Let's see, we got +6 intelligence. Add cold damage. Leeches as mana. Wander staff. Gain extra damage as cold damage. Hmm. Here we go. Alright, I'm starting to fade, guys, so I think I'm gonna be calling it a night. Because I do have work in the morning, and I'm kind of beat right now. Yeah, I'm gaming on Linux, but thank you all for joining me. If you haven't already, make sure to join me on the Discord channel, and a Discord. I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Mastodon, I'm on Twitch, I'm on many different platforms. Make sure to check out all the links in bio if you haven't already. And of course, join the Discord server, where we have a little over 1,000 people in there, and we also have a Matrix server as well. And you're more than welcome to join the community, talk about gaming and Linux and cybersecurity and all things tech. We have a Radiohead channel for ham radio and everything. But I will see you all tomorrow evening, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. Reminder that there is no stream on Wednesdays for the next few weeks because I'm in the middle of a class, but that should be resuming end of July. But if you, stick around. And then don't forget, movie nights on the Discord and Saturday night. But thank you for joining me. I'll see you tomorrow evening. Stick around for the raid if you're over on Twitch. But otherwise, happy hacking, and I love all y'all. See you next time.